Hello class, my name is Mark Wengler, and tonight I'd like to talk to you about the Marine Corps rank structure. Now, every branch of the military has their own rank structure, but it's based off a enlisted and officer pay grade, or E something or O something, E being enlisted, O being officer. The difference between an officer and enlisted is that an officer comes into the military with a college degree. Enlisted most of the time doesn't have a college degree, although if you do have a college degree, you can come in as enlisted still. Now, Marine Corps rank structure is all rank structures in the military are fairly the same. They just have different names for them. So I'm going to talk to you mostly about the enlisted rank structure because I was enlisted when I was in the Marine Corps. Now, first off, you're going to have an E1 or private in the Marine Corps. Everybody starts out here at some point. Others move past that faster depending on, qualifications that you have to move to the next rank or get promoted. Next one is private first class, or an E2. Then you have the lance corporal, which is an E3. Then you have corporal, which is an E4. Now, corporal, you become a non-commissioned officer, or an NCO. And that lasts all the way through to the next rank, which is E5 sergeant. Both corporal and sergeant, E4 and E5, are non-commissioned officers. After sergeant or E5, you have staff sergeant, which is an E6, and they become a staff non-commissioned officer. Obviously, staff kind of gives it away: staff sergeant, staff non-commissioned officer. After E6, you have gunnery sergeant, which is an E7, with starting at staff sergeant or gunnery sergeant, depending on what your job title is in the Marine Corps. You start to be more responsible for more Marines. You're more accountable. You're more responsible for things like administration or training or just the well-being of the Marines that are under your command. After gunnery sergeant, you have E7. Gunnery sergeant E7, you have master sergeant E8. Also at E8, you have first sergeant. And this is where it kind of gets confusing because both master sergeant and first sergeant are E8s, but hold different billets in the Marine Corps. A master sergeant is going to be more administrative, training-wise, paperwork, making sure everybody's up to date on all their training or classes that they have to take, things like that. First sergeant's going to be more operational, going to be boots on the ground, more hands-on with the actual Marines that are underneath their command. And a lot of times, in my situation, the first sergeant was in charge of an entire company of Marines. After first sergeant, you have master gunnery sergeant, which is an E9. You also have sergeant major, which is an E9. Again, both E9s, but the master gunnery sergeant is going to be more administrative, just on a higher level than a master sergeant. A master gunnery sergeant is going to be in charge of an entire battalion of Marines, or at least their administrative training, schooling, stuff like that. And the sergeant major is going to be more of the disciplinary or hands-on, boots on the ground with those Marines under his command. The last rank structure, last enlisted Marine rank is Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, which is also an E9, but he holds the highest billet as an enlisted Marine in the Marine Corps. There is no other rank, enlisted rank, higher than the Sergeant Major. Of course, the officers, they're going to be more of the planning, the book savvy, the decision makers. This is, the officers are going to say this is how it's going to go, and the enlisted make it happen. Now, in order to get through these ranks, you have to obviously be promoted. In order to be promoted, there are certain levels, I want to say checks in the box that you have to have before you can be promoted to the next rank. A lot of times the Marine Corps as a whole will look at what kind of martial arts training you have, or what your rifle score is, or what your physical fitness test score is. How long you've been in a certain rank also plays into it. And all these things combined together will give you a score, and based on what the Marine Corps needs at that time, they will open up a rank in a certain job title, and as long as you meet that score, then you will be promoted shortly thereafter. It's not always as soon as you make the score, but if you do, then you get promoted to the next level. And a lot of times a rank can be closed out because the Marine Corps as a whole has too many, let's say, sergeants. So in order to become a sergeant from a corporal, you might have to wait a little bit longer until the Marine Corps has more of a demand for sergeants. But all in all, it's the same process through most of the ranks, that you get promoted, that you have to do the same thing. There are some ranks where you have to actually speak in front of a panel. You have to answer questions. They look at how your uniforms are, if you've ever been in any trouble, things like that. All these things come into account when being promoted within the Marine Corps. Officers, I can't speak too well on because I was not an officer. I just dealt with them, and but from what I can tell, they have somewhat the same process of being promoted, but their promotions go a lot higher, and a lot of times they flow over into other branches of the Marine Corps, especially when you get up into the generals and commanders and stuff like that. But other than that, that's the enlisted rank structure for the Marine Corps. Thank you very much.